What up, Naughty Steppers? Connor Whitmore here again with another review for you on the Nawtystep channel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about the new EP from Excision and Dion Timmer, Breaking Through. Here we have the debut multi-track collection from Jeff Abel, aka Excision, and Dion Timmer, aka Dion Timmer. By no means the first time this pair have collaborated, a partnership that formed a fair few years ago now, starting with Out of Time and Interstellar on X's codename X album, before moving on to some proper big hitters. From Final Boss to Africa, Hoods Up, Harambe, Again and Again, the list goes on. Abel acting as something of a mentor to Timmer over the years, and being key to a lot of his success, providing that platform with the codename X album when Timmer was just 15 years old, and from there he's really established himself. People even thought Abel was his dad for a bit. But in spite of the ridiculous amount they've already collaborated, Breaking Through represents the first collection of songs that they've put together. Abel arriving into this off the back of his fourth full-length album Apex, which dropped last August, and Timmer from his own extensive project Very Extra, and collabs with Zed's Dead, Virtual Riot, and Dubloads. But does this EP rank alongside their best material so far? At points, I'd say definitely. On a level of production quality, large parts of Breaking Through show X and Timmer at their electrifying peak. But it is undoubtedly and ultimately a project of both good drop ideas and not so good ones. We'll start with the good stuff though, and the first drop of note for me is actually the first on the EP in the opener and title track. I like how it snaps into focus before unleashing these oozy, mind-frying, peekaboo-like sounds. And the second half of each sequence with those beastly, growling, bellowing sounds is just so savage and gnarly. I love it. The way this whole section is built on gradually is just a brilliant introduction to the heaviness of this EP. On track 2, Proceed with Caution alongside Shivers, I'm all about the double drops, which are just pure force and flavour. Sounds are tops, spacing out of them is great, hard hitting but vibrant, quality flow, just brilliant, mate. You know what I mean, it just really hits a certain spot. On track 3, Time Stood Still, I really appreciate how we get a dose of melancholic heaviness from X and Timmer. It's not quite the level of Interstellar, but there's a really nice progressive, journeying feel to the drops here. And importantly, you can feel the emotion of it quite strongly, fits well into the context of the EP. Also of note with those 3 sections are the background touches, which in all of them are spot on. My favourites probably being in those double drops of Proceed with Caution, lots of cheeky little sounds in the background. Despite this good though, I must say there are also drawbacks on the drop front with the first 3 tunes. Whilst I appreciate the second drop change on Breaking Through with that more spaced out synth delivery, I find it nowhere near as impactful as the first, doesn't get into its stride, too many gaps, not as much force. Having said that, the way it dips back into the bellows from the first drop is very welcomed. On Proceed with Caution, both original drops have a good level of sonic variety, and I like the consistency from one to another, but those ghostly, demented gasps I find very off-putting, and I don't feel like the idea ever truly takes off. And Time Stood Still, whilst I enjoy the emotion and direction of it, the ideas are just a little bit plain. With more notes added in, the second drop just seems like a cover-up for the emptiness and basic feel of the first one more than anything. Now, you may have noticed that up until this point, I have yet to mention the fourth and final track, Bones. And that's cause it's quite the exception of the 4, and not in the best way. The drops in this song are pretty messy, the first has some pretty huge wubs, but the snares are so weak as to be almost non-existent. And the droning feel of the double drop isn't that great either, some of the background stuff seems out of time. I did however like the midsection turned outro, which rounds off the EP in this very pretty, fragile way. Weird to hear there was no second drop at first, but once you get used to that, it's a lovely listen. On On that note, I also really enjoyed the outro to Time Stood Still. The way the track effortlessly deconstructs really works. Then on the flip side of that, the introduction to that same tune, with its chilling, futuristic vocal, is time-stopping in its nature. And also the introduction to the EP on the title track is a very tense listen that prepares you well. When the vocal says, I rate that a lot. At the very least, they make up for the mid-sections, which across the board aren't anything special. None of them really drawn out, the aspect of this EP that makes it feel a little bit rushed and drop-centric. But overall, would I say this EP is a good listen? Yes, and because I feel there are great parts in every song. I've said this in the past, but it's not easy making a track with someone else, let alone a whole EP. It may be two brains, but that means conflicting ideals and opting for others' ideas when you may prefer your own sometimes. And taking that into account, I think it was highly unlikely that this would be a knockout EP from beginning to end. But there's definitely enough on offer for it to stand as a pretty solid project overall. People may be surprised to hear me say this, but I think in the opener and title track, we have potentially their best heavy collab so far. Furthermore, whilst as I mentioned, Time Stood Still isn't quite on the level of Interstellar, it's another good addition to that emotional branch of their style. The duration and consistency in some of their drops, and the patience in the general construction, shows a real confidence in their own creation. Some of their ideas don't quite come off, but when it comes to changing things up, they know exactly when to do so. In spite of a couple of flat moments, the overall richness of the sound is there, enrapturing at times. And even though I prefer the first half of the EP to the second, I feel it excels just about enough for me to see it as good on the whole. The one thing that I must admit confuses me is that it sounds much more like an Excision EP than a collab one. Because honestly, even after all these years, I still don't think I'm completely sure what Dion Timmer's style is, but hey ho, that's just a little side point that I'm not going to go into any further to round off this review. Now in terms of my favourite on the EP, you guessed it, it's Breaking Through. First drop section is fantastic, introduction sets a scene, second drop change I appreciate, and it's the most rounded of the four for me. And in terms of recommendations, if you enjoyed the EP, then I think I would have to go with Peekaboo, you know. I get a distinct flavour of his style in a couple of tracks here, but also I would look at their old collabs to get an understanding of how their collective style has developed over the years. And so there we have it, my thoughts on the new EP from Excision and Dion Timmer, Breaking Through. What did you guys make of it? Do you have a favourite track from the four? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, then be sure to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell along the way, social media accounts in the description box down below. For some other dubstep related videos on the channel, check out the link right here. And lastly, if it's naughty, then you know guys, so be sure as always to keep it naughty, make sure you always keep it naughty, and stay safe. And I shall see all of you legends in the next one. Peace out.